All right, hi everyone. We are going to take notes on our first topic of the year, which is citizenship. So we'll go ahead and get started. So, what does citizen mean? So, when we do the notes, both my online students and my in-person students will be watching this video to take Cornell notes. And so, when we do this, I will tell you kind of what maybe you should put on the left side of your Cornell notes, and I will tell you what you need to write on the right-hand side of your Cornell notes. If you want to write more than that, you can, but for my in-person students, I'm not going to pause it and let you write down the whole slide. Quick reminder: when you're taking notes, you don't have to write down every single thing that I say, and you don't even have to write down every single thing I tell you to write down. If you can shorten it without losing the meaning, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to use this little pen here, and I'm going to tell you what to write down. So the first thing that you need to write down is you need to write down our first vocab word of the year. Yay, citizen. And you're going to write that down on the left. And what's underlined here, LT meaning left, you're going to write that down on the left-hand side of your Cornell. And then what's underlined here, you're going to write down on the right-hand side of your notes under the definition. Okay, so our first topic is citizenship. Our first vocab word is a citizen. A citizen is a legal member of a country, meaning that by their country's rules, they are a legal member of that country, and they owe allegiance to obey and follow that government, and they're entitled to protection of their rights by that government. It's kind of an important definition because in a couple of weeks we're going to talk about John Locke's social contract theory, and that's exactly what it is. It is a contract that a person and government enter into together, and what it says is that a citizen agrees to follow the rules and obey the government. In return, the government must protect that citizen and protect their rights. So when we're using the term citizen, that's what we're talking about. What we're really going to talk about today are what are the ways to become a U.S. citizen, and specifically the naturalization process to become a U.S. citizen, which is very important. All right, in the first topic, we are going to, I'm going to get rid of my pen here. In the first topic, we are going to, there's what I want. In the first topic, we are going to talk about the obligations and responsibilities. Obligations are things citizens must do. Responsibilities are things they should do of U.S. citizens. And today we're going to talk about what is a U.S. citizen. Okay, so one important thing that we have here is that who is a U.S. citizen and the rights of citizens is constantly changing in this country. African Americans did not become citizens in this country until almost 100 years after we were a country, until 1868. Native Americans didn't become citizens in this country until 1924. So the immigration process and who's a citizen and the rights of citizens is constantly evolving and changing. Okay, so I'm going to, bear with me, I'm going to erase this part here, and we are going to have our next definition. On the left, you're going to want to write down, this thing's hard to write with, sorry if it's not perfect. You're going to write down the 14th Amendment on the left, and then you're going to write this down, which I kind of put in brackets here. You're going to write that down on the right-hand side of your notes. So the 14th Amendment is crucially important. We're going to talk about it a lot later in the year when we talk about constitutional rights and the Supreme Court cases and important parts of the Constitution. 14th Amendment is one of the most important parts. But for today's purpose, the 14th Amendment is really important because it defines who is a citizen in this country. When the Constitution was written in 1780, there was no definition of American or United States citizenship. It wasn't until almost 100 years later when the 14th Amendment was passed where our Constitution, which is our founding document in this country, described who is a citizen and how to become a citizen. So the definition that our Constitution gives us in the 14th Amendment is of who is a citizen is all persons born or naturalized in the United States. So there are really two ways to become a U.S. citizen. You can be born a U.S. citizen, which is called a native-born or natural-born citizen, or you can be a naturalized citizen, which means you've moved from another country and earned been given your U.S. citizenship. Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about for most of today is how do those two things work. Just as a note here, when I say the 14th Amendment is really important, it's because of this clause here, the due process of law and the equal protection of law. Again, the 14th Amendment was passed after the Civil War to give citizenship to freed slaves. And for a long time, African Americans were citizens, but they were not given equal laws. So we had things like segregation and laws that wouldn't let them vote and things like that. So the 14th Amendment has been used throughout our history to extend and expand rights of citizens. And we're going to talk a lot later in the year about the due process and equal protection of law clauses because those are really important. But for today, we're just looking at it as the amendment in the Constitution that defines citizenship. Okay, so there are three ways to become a citizen. Really, there's two ways: natural born citizen and a naturalized citizen, but there are two ways to become a natural born citizen. That's why we have three there. Okay, so you're going to need to write this down. And I know this is a lot, so I apologize. You're going to need to write this down on the left-hand side, three ways to become a U.S. citizen. And you do need to know all three of them here. Again, you can shorten these a little bit as long as you don't lose the meaning. But let's go ahead and look at these. So the first two ways here, way one and way two, they are one way that you can become a citizen, called being a native born or natural born citizen. What that means is that you are a citizen the moment you're born, either because your parents were citizens or because you were born in American territory or both. Most people in here are natural born citizens, meaning the second you were born, you were a citizen. So there's two ways that you can be a natural born citizen, either by law of soil, which means you were born somewhere on American territory, either in the United States or an American territory. You were born on American territory, therefore you're a citizen, even if your parents weren't a citizen when you were born. So, for example, Kamala Harris, who is the running for vice president for the Democrats, when she was born, her parents lived in the United States as legal immigrants, but they were not citizens. But she was born in Oakland, California. Therefore, she was automatically a United States citizen. John McCain, a Republican who ran for president about 10 years ago, he was not born in America. He was born in Germany on an army base, which is considered American territory. Therefore, because of law of soil, he was automatically an American citizen. So even if your parents aren't citizens, if you're born on American territory, you are automatically a U.S. citizen. The other way that you can be a native born citizen is by law of blood. And this means that one of your parents was a citizen when you were born. And even if you weren't born in America, you're still a citizen. So if Mrs. Casher is pregnant, which she's not, but if she's pregnant, we go on vacation to France and she has the baby. It's not like that baby is not an American citizen because they weren't born on U.S. soil. Mrs. Casher and I are American citizens, therefore that baby is automatically a citizen. Like I said, most native born citizens are citizens because of both of these. Their parents were citizens, law of blood, and they were born in America. But there are two different ways you can be a native born citizen, and they're the same. It's not like, oh, I was born in America and you weren't, so I'm better. They're the same. Okay. Now, the third one down here, naturalization, is very important. It's what's going to be on your civics EOC at the end of the year. And this is what we're going to talk a lot about is the last way you can become a U.S. citizen is to become a naturalized citizen. Naturalization is the process in which a non-citizen in a country can gain citizenship. So, for example, we're going to have Mrs. Parsons come in and talk to us next week. She was born in South Africa. She was not, her parents weren't citizens. She wasn't born in the United States. She moved here legally, followed the process, and earned her U.S. citizenship. And she became a U.S. citizen. Again, all three of these ways of becoming a citizen are equal. Naturalized citizens, this is important. This will be a test question when we have a test. Naturalized citizens are the exact same, have the exact same rights as native born citizens. They can vote. They are guaranteed all the protections of the government and law. They have all the same obligations as U.S. native born citizens. Literally, the only difference between a native born citizen and a naturalized citizen is naturalized citizens cannot become president of the United States. I know that seems weird, but it's in our Constitution that a requirement to become a president is you have to be a native-born citizen. So Mrs. Parsons, as much as she has equal rights as a citizen, she can't run for president and become president. Okay, so I got to erase this. So give me a second. And this slide, you won't have to write anything down on this slide, so that's good. You wrote down a lot on last slide. You can if you want to, but really it's the same as last slide. It's just kind of restating that. So one of the ways to become a citizen is to be a native-born citizen, meaning citizenship by birth. The second they're born, boom, they're a U.S. citizen. And there's two ways, again, law of blood, which means your parents were citizens, like your bloodline, your parents were citizens, therefore you're a citizen. So if, your mom was on a business trip in Australia and gave birth to you, even though you're born in Australia, you're still a citizen because your mom was a U.S. citizen. And then the other one is law of soil. And this means you were born on U.S. soil. It doesn't just mean United States. You could be born in Puerto Rico, which is a territory. You could be born on an American army base. You could be born in an American consulate in China. But if that's considered American territory, you're still an American citizen. Sometimes people will try and come here from other countries illegally and have their babies in the United States because then that baby is a U.S. citizen, even if the parents aren't. So, if someone were to come over the border and sneak into this country illegally, they are illegal immigrants. They're not a citizen, but if they have a baby here, that baby is a citizen because they're born on American soil. Okay, so we went over that in the last slide. You don't need to write that down. Now, one thing you don't have to write this down, but it's important to understand. Almost, and this number is a little bit old, I should update it, almost 15% of Americans are naturalized citizens. So if we have 300 million people in this country, that means almost 50, 45, 50 million American citizens are naturalized citizens. That means they moved from another country because they wanted to live in the United States. They came here, they followed a process, and they've earned their citizenship. Maybe some of you know people that have moved from other countries, maybe a country in the Caribbean or from Africa or from Europe, and have moved here and become naturalized citizens. It's a very emotional and important moment in that person's life when they earn a citizenship. And again, they have all the same rights. They're equal to us in all ways. That's a lot. That's basically almost 1 in 6, 1 in 7 Americans is a naturalized citizen. Okay, so how do you become a naturalized citizen? Again, for anyone that's a native-born citizen, it's really easy. You're a citizen the second you're born. But for people who want to move to this country and become a citizen, there is a strict naturalization process with basically 5 steps or requirements, okay? And so you're going to want to write these down. So what I suggest you do in your Cornell notes is write down the 5-step naturalization process on the left, and then everything else on the next 5 slides, because each step's a different slide, you can write down on the right. And so you'll have the naturalization process on the left, and then you can write down number 1 through 5 and write down the 5 steps. Okay, so number 1 step, aliens. An alien is just a term that describes anyone who lives in another country. They're from one country and they live in a different country. So if I moved to Ireland, I would be an alien. I know it's a weird term. And there's such things as legal aliens, they move there legally, or illegal aliens, which you sometimes hear referred to people who move to another country illegally. But step 1, aliens must apply for a permanent residency and wait 5 years. So that would be what we in this country call a green card. So you could just say apply for a green card and wait 5 years. One thing you may want to add to your notes, I don't have here, maybe it's on another one, you have to be the age of 18 in order to apply for your green card, and then you have to wait 5 years. So Mrs. Parsons, when she comes in and talks, she's going to talk about how her family moved here on a visa legally from South Africa, and they had applied for their green card, and they only had a certain amount of time to get it. It literally came down to like the last week or two. They either had to get their green card or move back to the country they came from, and they got their green card, and then they had to wait 5 years in order to become a citizen. So people who want to become a citizen have to move here legally, apply for a visa or different ways you can move here legally, and then they can apply for a green card, which is their permanent residency. They're a permanent resident in here, and then they have to wait 5 years, right? That's an important number. You'll want to know that. And that's the first step. So move here legally, get a green card, wait 5 years. Okay, so let's go on to, erase. And you should have written this down on the left so we can erase it. Okay, let's go on to step 2. Step 2, you have to apply for citizenship, right? So you have to fill out an application. So what can you write here? You could just say must apply. Oh, a little sloppy. Must apply for citizenship. So you fill out this big, long application and you apply. That's step 2. This is actually Albert Einstein, famous American citizen. This is actually his application that he filed. So he moved here from Germany legally. He applied for a green card. He waited 5 years, and then you fill out the application. Okay, well, that's pretty easy. So I think we got that. You must apply for citizenship. Mrs. Parsons will talk about that too when she comes in. I think maybe her husband, if I remember from last year, actually filled out a part of the application wrong, and during the interview they talked to him about that. But you just apply. Okay, step 3, you must get fingerprinted. And so we'll write that down as step 3. And one of the requirements in order to become a naturalized citizen is you have to have good moral character. We don't want to let people in this country who aren't good people, who may cause problems, become citizens. So you have to have good moral character. And one of the ways they do that is they do an interview process, and they also fingerprint you to run background checks. You know, if you're coming from another country, they want to make sure that you're not a criminal that had a lot of crimes in that other country. So they're going to fingerprint you, make sure you haven't committed a crime in this country while you're during that 5-year waiting period. So they're going to fingerprint you to make sure, again, that you have good moral character. Okay. So get fingerprinted. That was pretty easy. Okay. Okay, let's go on to the next step. So, step 4, you must be interviewed and you must pass the citizenship test. And so, you're going to want to write down must be interviewed and passed the citizenship test. And you're also going to want to write down you all applicants must take the citizenship exam in English. People who are going to become a citizen in this country must be able, it's hard to write, so you want to write that down. They must know English because the test and interview that they're given is done in English. So if they can't answer or speak in English, they can't pass the test. So they must be interviewed and pass a citizenship test. The citizenship test is kind of your basic civics questions. How many branches of government there are there? How many senators are there? Who's in, what branch of government can veto a law? They're going to ask basic civics questions, and they're also going to interview them, ask them questions again to make sure that they have good moral character. So you must have a basic knowledge of reading, writing, and the U.S. Language. And they get a big test book that they have to study, and they have to know English, and they have to know United States civics and government and pass that test. Okay, so what are the steps so far? You have to be 18. You have to get your green card. You have to wait 5 years. You have to have good moral character and get fingerprinted, and then you have to pass a exam and an interview. Okay, let's go on to the last step. The last step is the fun and easy one if you're going through this process. The last step is um, they have to take an oath of allegiance. So once applicants pass the exam, they attend a ceremony. They have to go before someone, they have to take the oath, and they have to be sworn in as a U.S. Citizen. So um, what, once applicants pass the exam, they attend a ceremony. Um, yeah, you could say that. Maybe even write down that they have to take an oath of allegiance to this country to make sure that they're allegiant to their new country. This is usually a very proud moment for citizens. They'll usually invite family members to attend this ceremony. It's very hard to come to this country legally. You have to wait 5 years. It's hard to get a green card. You have to learn English, study the test. This is a very proud moment. Someone has decided to leave their country and become a citizen of this country, and this is a very proud, important moment for them. So those are the 5 steps. Again, this is a way that someone can become a naturalized citizen. And there'll be lots of questions on your EOC and your test that we'll be taking at the end of the week and next week about this. Which one of these is a requirement to become a naturalized citizen? Which one of these isn't a requirement to become a naturalized citizen? Why is this step important to become a naturalized citizen? So there'll be lots of questions like that. Here is the oath of allegiance that citizens take when they become a country, swearing to honor the country and support and defend the Constitution and be loyal to the country. And this is what they read. All right. Let me go back. Okay. This is important. You're going to want to write this down. Rights of a naturalized citizen. Let me get my face out of the way. And I want you to understand this, that naturalized citizens have all the same rights as natural born citizens. You shouldn't look as a naturalized citizen as any different or inferior than a natural born citizen. They're literally the same according to our Constitution. The only exception, if you want to write this, you can. The only exception is that a naturalized citizen cannot become president. It's in our Constitution that a requirement for the presidency is you have to be 35 years old and a natural born citizen. I guess they didn't want people coming from other countries to become president, but besides that, they're the exact same in every way. So you need to know all those steps, or sometimes they're called steps to naturalization or requirements. I'll run through them real quickly again. You have to be 18. You have to have come here legally and got a green card. You have to wait 5 years. You have to have good moral character, which means you get fingerprinted and pass an interview. You need to know English. Those are the requirements. And then you have to take an oath of allegiance. Those are the requirements to become a naturalized citizen. You don't have to take notes on this. You'll hear a lot about immigration during this upcoming election. They've been talking a lot about it. Immigrants are people who have come here legally, applied for visas, come to this country, and are incredibly important. America's known as the land of immigrants, the Statue of Liberty. So a legal immigrant is someone who legally lives in the country but is not a citizen. or an alien is a person who lives in a country, not a citizen, but they're a legal alien. They're a legal immigrant. They're allowed to be here. They don't have all the same rights as a citizen, though. So when Mrs. Parsons was living here, she couldn't vote until she became a citizen. She had to pay taxes and follow our laws, but she couldn't vote. She didn't have all the same rights as a citizen. That's why people want to earn their citizenship. Now, sometimes you will hear about illegal immigration or illegal aliens. Those are people who've come here illegally. They didn't get a visa. They didn't follow the right legal things. Maybe they snuck over the border for whatever reason, and they are here illegally, and they don't really have any rights. They do have rights, but they obviously can't vote or anything like that as well. Like I was saying, our country has changed throughout the years. People have come from all over the place. In the 1800s, maybe a lot of your families came from Germany or Ireland or Europe. In the last 30, 40 years, a lot of people have come from the Caribbean and Mexico and other places, but we're a land of immigrants. That's what makes America so great is we have different languages and customs and beliefs, and immigrants bring those and help make America a stronger place. Like I was saying, sometimes you'll hear about illegal immigration or illegal aliens. Those are just people who are in this country illegally. They didn't follow the right steps, and here, sorry, they didn't follow the right steps. Maybe they came here for jobs, education, healthcare, to be with their family, protection, but for whatever reason, they came here illegally. They can be deported back to their country, and that's a huge issue right now. But again, when they're talking about immigration, and a lot of times there's this negative connotation with immigration, they're talking about illegal immigration. Immigrants, remember, 1 in 6 Americans are immigrants who became U.S. citizens by following that naturalization process. Okay, so I'm not going to go over all of this. So we're done with those notes. Again, the really important thing you need to know, I'll expand me here. The really important thing that you need to know is the ways to become a citizen. There's 2 ways to be a naturalized citizen, law of blood and law of soil. You need to know what those are. And then naturalization, you need to know that naturalized immigrants are citizens. They have all the same rights as natural born citizens, and you need to know those steps or requirements. Okay? So we're going to talk all year about the rights of citizens and everything like that. So that's why we're talking about this term now. All right? I think we're done. For people online, you're going to write your summary at the bottom. For my people in class, you're going to write your summary, reread your notes that you just took. You're going to write a summary at the bottom. And for my in-person class students, you'll raise your hand. I'll come over, answer any questions you have on this topic, and read your summary. All right, we're done.